if they don't give you too much detail on, how we're going to achieve the best possible price for you, there's not much substance.
Yeah.
So, as you would know, often going with the cheapest agent who promises you the most isn't the way to go.
Yeah.
When I was little, my mum used to say to me, we're not rich enough to be able to afford cheap things, because when you don't get it right the first time, you have to do it again.
That's a cool quote. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back for another exciting episode of the Renopod. Today, my guest is Domi from Domination Buyers Agents, and I'm so excited to sit down and speak with her and learn a bit more about her journey and about the business that she's growing. All right, Domi, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
No
It's
problem
very exciting
at all.
to be here today.
Yeah, it's nice to sit down and learn a bit more about the business that you're building, which we'll touch on. But before we get into it, tell me a little bit about yourself. Where did you start? How did you get into real estate? What's your background?
Where do I start? There's so much.
Yeah.
So I first came to Sydney in 2010
Yeah.
as a student, worked my way up from hospitality industry through customer service industry, then met my husband in 2012, and then the rest is history.
Yeah, nice.
Where I came from, I did a lot of work in a customer service space, and that was just before I had my girls. We had two kids in 2013 and 2015. And I hit a point at that time of my career where I wanted to do something different. And so between 2012 and 2014, my husband and I were looking for a house to purchase. And so it really got me thinking about, could this be my next career? So we gave it some more thought, and here we are.
Oh, nice.
Nearly a decade later.
So when you say hospitality, what was that, like waitressing?
I was at events. I was a function waitress, so I really
So you
started
know how to
from
deal
the
with
bottom.
and you know how to deal
do.
with pressure too. So that's good. It's always a good breeding ground from when you start dealing with people's expectations with their events, and there's emotions that are high, and learning how to control them. So obviously that put you in good stead for your next step. So
And it obviously makes me appreciate how far I've come as well, seeing
100%.
Coming as a tourist, as a student to where I am today. It's really been a learning journey.
And it hasn't been that long. So it's been literally 11 years, like you said, 2012?
13 this year.
Yeah. That's incredible.
Yeah.
And so tell me, so you looked at purchasing a house, and then what part of that process made you go, I'm going to get into real estate? Like, what
So
was
it was
the
actually, we didn't end up buying a house at that point, but we helped my father-in-law purchase a property in Sydney. And it was, me looking into how I could get into it. Do I want to be in sales? Do I want to be in property management? What appeals to me more?
Yeah.
So I started actually in Inner West as a sort of receptionist, sales assistant. I was the director's right hand.
Wow.
From there, I went to the Hills District, where we wanted to move at the time because my family was based over there. So I did a lot more selling, a lot more buy work. I was a lot more involved in the whole process. And then from there, because I had two kids under 3, I was virtually never home. It was, 7 to 8 finish, or it was an 8 to 8 finish. I would see my kids wake up and then see them go to sleep.
Wow.
So it started getting to me as not being a great mum.
Yeah.
So then I sort of took a little break and I did a temp work. I did leasing for a company, a really well-known company in the city for 3 months.
Yeah.
And then on my last day with them, I landed a job close to home, and that's where I spent, the last sort of 5 years of my selling career.
So did you go straight into sales from that?
I went straight into sales.
Yeah.
So I hit the ground running there, started listing and selling properties, and in that time I sold over 200 properties, which gave me really a lot of experience. I learned a lot about the area, about the people, about the different ways people buy and sell and what's important to them, and really got to see both sides.
Yeah.
And it was the last 2 years of those 5 years that really got me thinking about what my next step is. I'm never really happy. I always look for the next challenge. So for me, it was, how can I improve? do I go and do something on my own? Do
Yeah.
I remain at the company and, make it bigger,
Yeah,
better?
yeah.
And it really came down to a lot of my clients who I established really close relationships with. And as much as I enjoyed the selling part of it, it was the buyers I was always more
Drawn to maybe?
drawn
Like you
to,
were... You enjoyed that experience of helping the
Very much
buyers
so.
through the whole process, right?
And it was often through experiences where they would come to me and say, we're looking for this and this and this. We can't find it. I would then go and find them other agents' listings that were more suitable than what they were potentially looking at with us. And they saw that I was different to most of the agents that they dealt with. And they said, you should do more of this. You're really good at this. And so that kept stewing in me for about 2 years. And then I decided, you know what? This is it. This is what I'm going to do more of and make it my full-time career.
So was there one moment that was the catalyst that you said, like, did the penny drop where you went, okay, like, this has happened?
It was
I'm doing
probably
this,
about my 3 to 5 key clients that I got really close with when they were buyers. And their search took anywhere between 12 to 18 months. So I went through the whole journey with them. I went on the journey with them.
Wow.
And I really enjoyed it. And I thought if I can do more of this, it's a lot of fun too, while, helping them find what they're after.
What's the most unique thing that someone's ever asked you to find for a property? Like if they've reached out to you? Yeah, I know. I'm always interested because I asked Aladdin this when we had him on the podcast, but I'm always intrigued to know, like, when people are searching for properties, are they pretty simple? Like, I want a 4-bedroom double-story house with a pool, or are they like, I want an underground basement with a man cave? And do you have any?
I think for me it would be not so much the specifics like that. It would be the clients that have specific feng shui requirements. And I really got to learn more about that through a couple of my clients just recently. And they basically gave me an A4 list of, you probably know a few things about it, but this is what it really is. And when I got to see, things like, having a kitchen in the very center of the home, having a property at the T section, having a property near a school or a church or a big shopping centre, those are all things that can deter those type of buyers away from those certain properties. So I was really diving deep into what that actually means and really gaining a deeper understanding of more about it.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, we'll talk about the top 3 tips. So from the buyers that came through, came to you essentially looking at purchasing or trying to find their dream home, what's some of the top 3 tips that you could give people looking to purchase a property, I guess, in this climate?
I do have more than top 3, but I will try and stick to
Aladdin
top
said the
3.
same thing. Aladdin said the same thing. Like, it's too hard to stick to 3. I know, but if we say 6 or 7, we'll be here all day.
In the current climate, what I would probably say is the most asked question that I get and selling agents get as well is now a good time to buy?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's not a complex question, but it's a complex answer. And what I mean by that is it very much depends. Are you a first home buyer? Are you an investor?
Yeah.
Are you a home owner who is buying their 3rd or 4th property?
Yeah.
Do you own your own business? Are you, self-employed?
Yeah.
Are you employed on the PAYG? There's so much
There's
to
a
it,
lot.
So when buyers ask, if you're buying an investment property, you buy it when you can. When you're in a position, you go for it. Yeah. For, say, first home buyers, the situation has to be right. The timing has to be right.
Yeah.
The finance assessment has to work. In what we recently have had with the interest rates, I think our buyers are a lot more comfortable purchasing now than they were potentially, 12 to 16 months ago, because they know it's nearly at the end.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of fear, a lot of negativity around the whole buying a property in general about, 16 months ago. But I would say, even with all the economic talks that's going on at the moment and all the negative media, it is not a bad time to buy right now. And I'll probably dive deeper into that in my next point. My second one would be really do your homework. It goes from assessment of your finance to finding the area that you really want to be in, because I found both in selling, on the selling side and on the buying side, I found with buyers, they They find an area they love. They go out and start looking at properties that this is my dream home.
Yeah.
And then the reality check hits after they've spoken to their broker and found out they can borrow $300,000 to $500,000 less than what they were hoping for. So it's really hard to reverse that with a buyer who can potentially spend, $1 million in COGRA versus someone who can spend 1.5, because it gets you a completely different type of property. And once you've gone out there and had a look at what you love and would like to buy versus what you can afford, it's really hard to take that back.
Yeah.
So doing that homework is really, really essential.
Yeah.
And
I'm going to guess the third one is call you.
Third one is call me. But also, again, something that I experience very much on the selling side is, especially with young couples, especially with first-time buyers, someone who's doing it for the first time, they get their pre-approval, they get excited, they go shopping, as we call it, and they go have a look at the property 2 times, 3 times, then bring their mum and dad, then bring their uncle, then bring their auntie, then speak to someone at school or where they work.
Yeah.
Block out the noise.
Yeah.
It's important to listen to opinions, but it's important to decide on what you want, because those other people are not going to be living at the property full time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you need to make sure it works for you,
and
you're happy with it, because you're the one who's going to be paying the mortgage.
Exactly.
So,
right. Exactly.
And then the fourth one is call me.
First one's call you.
I take the time and stress away.
100%.
From looking for a home. I don't know if you know an interesting stat.
Yeah.
Especially for the first home buyers, an average time to purchase a property is 200 to 300 hours.
Wow.
So we're talking, in real terms, months. It's probably anywhere between 6 to 9 months of people who are seriously looking to purchase. That's a lot of time to dedicate. A lot of Saturdays that you spend at open homes.
Driving,
a lot of phone calls you're doing in between, your work meetings and appointments, between school pickups, if you have kids. So it's a lot of time to dedicate to that.
Yeah.
And so what I would say is, unless you're someone who is a great negotiator, you know the market you want to purchase inside out, you have the time to spend at inspections, you enjoy talking to agents, contact someone like myself, because I can really help you through that.
Oh, there you have it. 4 tips, right? 4 tips. First one is strategy. Make sure that you know the strategy that you're going to implement before purchasing the property. Whether you're an investor, first home buyer, developer, whatever it may be, know your strategy first. Second tip is do your homework, making sure that your strategy aligns to what your purpose is and what you want to do. Make sure you do your homework right. Make sure you speak to the right people, including Domi. Make sure you speak to people, your broker. Get all your ducks in a row before you do it. Third tip Domi mentioned is to make sure that you block out all the outside noise. So it's important to listen to the opinions of those that you love or those that you care for, but they're not the ones paying the mortgage or living in the property. And fourth, I think it should be number 1, but the fourth part is call Domi. Cool. All right. How you feeling so far?
Good.
All right, good. So obviously, how long did you spend as a sales agent? How long were you with your...
Close to 7 years.
7 years, right. All right, so so you leapt as a buyer's agent. How do you find the transition between, I guess, being an employee to running your own business, having everything fall back on you, starting a brand new business from scratch? So obviously going from a sales agent in an agency to your own standalone buyer's agent. How'd you find the transition? Or how are you finding the transition?
The decision to start my own business and do what I'm doing at the moment was really easy. It was thinking about all the different aspects like finances, giving ourselves a financial buffer as a family, setting up the business, where am I going to operate from, how is the whole thing going to work. And because I had to give it some thought, that obviously took some time, but it's been really good. I couldn't do what I do without the support of my family. Yeah,
that's what I was going to ask you about balance as well. Like you mentioned you have 2 kids and you have a husband at home. How do you balance that? And it's not just your own business is demanding, but as a buyer's agency, you're probably copying calls so far and center. So how do you deal with the balance?
I think anyone who tries to talk about work-life balance, that isn't really a balance. You just make it work.
Yeah.
It's about It depends on how serious you are about your business too. When you are serious, you give it everything. And for the people who love you and support you, they know what you're trying to achieve and they back you 150%. So that's exactly what I'm getting from my family.
That's good.
My kids are a little bit older now. They're 8 and 10, so they're not babies anymore. So they're in their rooms with their laptops and their screen time, and that's all they do. But my mother-in-law, she looks after them very much for the drop-offs and the pickups when it comes to school. Things she looks after that. My husband, I call him my business manager.
That's good.
He knows as much about the industry as I do because I run everything past him. I talk to him about everything, and he's really a great person for me to, whether it's to do with marketing or with clients or with research, it's fantastic to have him by my side and to help me.
As a sounding board too, right? If you want to ask something or bounce an idea off him, you can do it, and that's good too.
100%. So, family and work is working well at the moment.
That's good. Do you travel far for work, Domi? Do you, like with your clients, do you sort of do all of Sydney Metro, or do you sort of just stick to a certain area?
So given my previous experience, between inner west, hills, now southwest, I have a lot of family in the hills. I have a lot of family out west, sort of Austral, Leppington, Oran Parkway as well. So when you look at the Sydney map, I cover pretty much most of it. So I feel very comfortable in different markets, and that's something that I feel I can offer my clients is really a deep knowledge around the complexities of looking at different properties in different markets as well. And given my sales background, I can interpret what the agent is saying to me to a client very simply because I've done it for
the lingo.
The lingo.
Years. That's a big thing too. Yeah, you have a lot of people even with us in our business. They talk a lot about the real estate lingo. When the house is cozy, so it's small. Like there's all these buzzwords that they don't really understand. Whereas someone like yourself, having been in that industry, you get to just decipher the terminology, and you can go back to the client simply and go, hey, it's too small.
But it's also to do with, the legalities when it then comes to contract and paperwork, explaining, 66W and cooling off period and preparation for auction. Can I purchase? Can't I purchase? My broker is telling me I can't buy a property at auction. Okay, we've just ditched 70% of the properties on the market. It's navigating through that process with ease. And I take all that headache away from the buyer because I've been there, I know how to do it, and it just really saves them time and money in the end.
Obviously, being in sales as a sales agent, or now within your business, do you have people come to you in terms of like a vendor advocacy type of thing? I do. So hey, I'm thinking of selling.
I'm not selling anymore, but what I still offer as a service is sales advisory. So how that would work is, say you have a property you want to sell, you've owned it for the past 30 years, you don't know where to get started. There's 2 different types of service I offer on that front. It's a one-off consultation, which is basically a sit-down, giving you all the details you need as a vendor to make that right decision going forward with selecting the right agent, asking the right questions at the listing presentations, tips and tricks to help with, the presentation of the home, the appearance of the home, the pricing of the property. So I can do that. But I can also take it to the next step, which is then... Think of it like being a project manager on a building site. So you could engage me as your advisor throughout the whole sale to coordinate the agent, the sale, and you at the same time. Wow. So I would be there to answer any questions that you might not want to ask your agent directly. And also to make sure that the agent, what they promised you and told you and the strategy they set out initially is working the way they told you it would. So it's really just having that second pair of eyes and ears along with you while you're selling. And
is that something you do weekly, or if the campaign's 4-week campaign, do you and obviously you've met them prior and you've had that consultation prior, do you then catch up with them after open house? Like, how's that? Or do you sort of...
It's a 24/7 assistance. It's really call me if you need anything. It would be making sure that, if an agent said to you, we'll give you feedback on Monday, Tuesday, they give it to you on Monday, Tuesday.
Yeah, that's right.
That all the meetings are when they're supposed to be. That campaign is tracking the way it's supposed to.
Yeah.
If there's any adjustments that need to be done on the marketing
Yeah.
side of things, that we're on top of it straight away, that we don't find ourselves in a week 4, 2 days before the auction with no buyers because
for sure.
the price is not correct. So,
I've seen you at a few auctions as well, representing
Yes.
some of your buyers and stuff like that. So that's obviously a service you offer too, where you
Yes.
can go out with the buyer and
So
bid
whether that would
an
be-
auction or something.
whether that would be for someone who just wants, they're
That's
too
a-
stressed
yeah,
and
yeah.
they don't want to do it themselves.
Yeah.
You know, they can't hold the poker face and just do
Yeah.
it. They don't know what strategy they should apply
Yeah.
to win the property at auction, or whether it's someone who just can't make it to the auction on the day. That's
Tell us about that. What's some of the strategy? Yeah, you put your foot in that one. Right? What's some of the strategies that, because you're right though, people, it's an emotional roller coaster for those that don't do it every day. So when they go to an auction and the auctioneer's screaming, he's got the gavel and there's a lot happening.
It's very intimidating.
There's a lot happening. So what's some of the strategies from a buyer's point of view? Tell us.
So with a lot of the buyers, what I actually find is, say you have a husband and wife.
Yeah.
They love the property.
Yeah.
They know what their budget is,
Yeah.
but they don't sit down before they actually go to attend the auction and decide what their maximum limit
Yeah,
is.
absolutely.
And even if they do, this will sound familiar,
Yeah.
a lot of them will set an even figure. So say you want to go and buy a property for $2 million.
Yeah.
You set your limit at $2 million. There might be 3 other people
Yeah.
on the auction floor that have a limit of $2 million. So, I guess one of the tricks would be set an uneven figure
Yeah.
as your maximum,
That's
whether
good.
it be 2,013,000, 2,011,000, set
That's
an
good.
uneven figure. It's also, for me, as a buyer's agent, it's reading the crowd,
Yeah.
being there early, looking at who the buyers are,
Yeah.
look at what the competition is. Is it families?
Yeah.
Is it buyer's agents?
Yeah.
Is it,
That's right.
and really getting a feel for how many people you're up against.
Yeah.
Do you go in early and try and knock everyone out with a strong bid? Do you hold back and be the dark horse at the end who comes in with a big bid at the end and blows everyone out of the water?
I always wanted to know, do you ever bid first or do you wait and see what's sort of your
It
strategy?
depends on
Depends
on
on
the
the
crowd.
yeah, fair enough.
And I never really set the strategy 100%.
Yeah, 'cause you gotta be
until
thinking
I'm
of the
there,
fly,
because
yeah.
I need to see who
Yeah.
I'm up against.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Yeah. There might be faces that, when I inspected the property for a client, I've seen 2-3 other times before.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I know that there's someone who's going to
Yeah.
be really keen and bidding really hard if they start bidding.
Okay, what's going back to your selling your selling past? What's some top 3 tips for sellers? Even now, actually, when you give the vendor advisory service and stuff like that, what's some of the top 3? Or I know you don't like 3, might have 4 or 5, but what's some of the top tips that you give to vendors that may be listening or watching that are thinking of selling? How do you sort of put them in the best position to maximize their sale price, but B, to make sure that their transaction is as smooth as possible?
Number 1 would be, don't underestimate the power of presentation and of appeal. And, I'll say this. Sometimes the difference between a good price and an amazing price is Renosell.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Did you hear that?
So what I mean by that is, you guys, and you can probably give us some background on this too, it's the small things that make a big difference, It's the street appeal.
Yeah,
It's pressure
definitely.
washing the driveway.
Yeah.
It's touching up the paint on the front of the property.
Yeah.
It's
The landscaping at the front.
Landscaping, giving the house a fresh coat of paint, some
Absolutely.
new lights, replacing the carpet. Don't have a stained carpet in the
Oh,
property.
yeah.
And the 2 different groups are obviously the home owners and they are the investors.
Yeah.
Now, for a homeowner, it's a pretty sensitive topic, when they've lived in the property for 20, 30 years and you tell them to move out, get a styling furniture in to make
It's
it
tough.
presented better.
Yeah.
But if they don't do everything a professional suggests for them to do,
Yeah.
they're potentially missing out on tens, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Absolutely.
And, it's trying to explaining to them coming from a place where you want to help them achieve the most,
Yeah.
not your house doesn't look right, this is not going to sell for what you want it to. So it's finding the balance between suggesting as much as you can from, your field of expertise and maximizing their price. And for the investors, a lot of the times when I was selling properties, and actually the last property that I sold was for one of my family members, and having the conversation of we need a new carpet, we need a new paint, we need to change the lights. Oh no, that's not going to make a difference.
Oh, yeah,
We're
it's
talking
tough.
$50,000 to $70,000 on an apartment. It is going to make a difference.
Yeah.
So they, excuse me, luckily took my advice, and we did end up getting a really good result for them. But for a lot of investors, they might be in a position where they say, I can't afford to miss out on $5,000 to $10,000 worth of rent in the 3 months of selling. What they don't realise is that they might be losing between $50,000 to $100,000 on the end result if they don't spend that money.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm sure you know of a few companies too. Now, there's so many different options through different selling agents. What they can offer as well is the third-party financial assistance.
Oh, absolutely.
With, you know,
The
whether that would be
deferral of
marketing,
payment.
the deferral of payments,
Yeah.
you know, what you guys do, renovate now, pay later.
Definitely.
But also for, you know, there's so much out there.
Yeah.
You just have to explore.
And it
the
doesn't have to
options.
be a lot either. Like what we find is it's a fine line between overcapitalizing and, you know, just getting the property ready for market. So, people think that you've got to do a full kitchen and bathroom renovation. Like we offer a cosmetic solution, which is half the price, which presents just as well, right? And it weathers and it stands the time. And we focus a lot on just the curb appeal, because as soon as someone drives past and they see the property, if it looks like it needs some work, 9 times out of 10, they're probably going to keep driving if they don't want to do the work, because I'm sure you're aware, but some of the stats show now that people just want turnkey properties, whether they're investors or first home buyers. They don't have the time to renovate or to clean up a property. They want to walk in, oh, it's neat, I can live in it, beautiful. And then that's what, gets them over the line 9 times out of 10. So,
and even in the market that we're in right now, where you could say the spending's tighter, the market's tighter, you know, the lending is harder, you still find that for properties that present and they walk in, nothing to do, buyers still pay premium prices, because with the cost of building going up, with everything being too expensive, with most people not having the time and the patience to be dealing with that.
Yeah. Well, you know yourself, you've done your own reno yourself. You've done you've got, you know, and that's the unique thing, I guess, about you and the business is you've got the sales experience, you've got the buying experience, you've got the renovation. So you've got a pretty holistic approach, which can make life a lot easier for those that
and it
have
also
never
allows
done it
me
before.
to pair my clients up with the right people when time comes to renovate, sell, get the properties ready.
Yeah, absolutely. What are some other tips, Domi, to get the properties ready for market from a seller's point of view? Domi, what's some other tips that, you know, can help sellers get themselves in positions to, you know, either maximise the sale price or even just make the transaction as seamless as possible?
So really a big one here is, you know, selecting the right agent to look after you in the selling process. And some of the tips that I would give sellers there, or maybe some of the right questions to ask would be, you know, rather than just having a look at the, say, top 3 or top 5 agents in the area and just going off, you know, the volume of sales that they do and the types of properties they sell is when you actually meet with them and they present you with the plan, really pay attention to, you know, in terms of marketing, in terms of strategy, in terms of time frame and the price that they suggest for the property, that it resonates with you. Because if it's something that's not comfortable for you, or if they don't give you too much detail on, you know, how we're going to achieve the best possible price for you, there's not much substance. So, you know, as you would know, often going with the cheapest agent who promises you the most isn't the way to go. When I was little, my mum used to say to me, we're not rich enough to be able to afford cheap things, because when you don't get it right the first time, you have to do it again.
That's a cool quote. That's really cool. I like that. Because I think another one, which is not as cool as that, but another one is like they say, if you think it's expensive to hire someone, a professional, wait until you hire an amateur.
That's
Same
right.
thing. Like it's just getting it right the first time.
Exactly.
So hiring the right agent, asking the right questions is important. Obviously, it's intimidating when, you know, again, if you've never done it before and you're calling an agent, they come out of the gates like a bullet, you know, like they just if you want 3 there, they're there. There's a lot of...
And your difference between, you know, achieving a great price versus a good price is hiring the right person is going to make all that difference. You know, if they're a professional in their field and they've got the connections and they know how to work the buyers and they know how to have those conversations, they set out the great marketing strategy and a plan, and they keep you well informed. Their communication is amazing throughout the campaign. That's who you want on your side. If you feel like it's too much for you to handle and you can't make that call on your own, again, this is something that I can assist with in the process. And then number 3 would be, I find a lot of vendors overthink the timing aspect. So they'll say, the market's too bad, I'm not going to sell now. The market's too hot, I'm not going to sell now. One of the things I have discovered throughout the selling career is a lot of owners don't realise when they sell in the lower market, they save more money. So to put it into some real numbers, you might be looking at a property that's worth $1 million in a lower market, 1.2 in a higher market. In the lower market, not only do you pay less for selling fees, you pay less on stamp duty, you also have less competition. So it is really something to consider for owners who are sitting tight at the moment thinking now is not a good time to sell.
That's good advice. That's good. Even just on that, but everything's quite relative in terms of the market that you buy. If you are transitioning to buy something bigger, or and that's what we saw a lot in COVID, where the market wasn't as strong, but your buying power, you're buying a bit more for your money. So if you're selling at $1 million and you're buying at 1.3 somewhere else, you're getting a much better product or a better property. Whereas another thing is people come to us if they're investors and they're thinking of selling, but now's not the right time. Like what you mentioned in terms of costs going down, things like capital gains costs go down. So if you sell it for a bit of less profit, you're going to pay less. Like it's all relative.
Essentially, in the end, you have more change left over.
Yeah, that's right.
On the same thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I like that. So real estate looks like a glamorous industry, right? I think if you just look at Instagram or Lux listings or whatever $1 million, whatever show you want to watch, real estate is the industry. Like it's tip-top, pristine. So that attracts a lot of people to get into the industry. What advice would you give people young people or old, anyone looking at getting into the industry? What advice would you give them about either A, succeeding in the industry, B, having longevity in the industry?
First of all, get ready for a lot of months of not really getting paid much.
A lot of groundwork.
Depending on
building your foundations.
Depending on what scenario you have worked out with your new employer. I think for younger kids who have got it worked out and they're still living with mum and dad, that's the absolute best time for them to get into the industry. If that's something they want to dedicate a lot of time and effort to, it's the best time because they can afford not to be making much in the beginning and then really build on that. When they don't have the expenses, when they don't have family, when they don't have kids to put through school, it's very different, for me in the situation now when I've got 5 people to look after with a new business, and it's very different for someone who's 18 years old,
Absolutely.
straight out of school, no expenses, living
absolutely.
with mum and dad. So it's very different.
And I guess they've got all the time in the world really at that age, right? Their time's not being divided by 5 and trying to give everyone equal time. Their time is pretty much available to do whatever they want, whether that's cold call, knock on doors and build the business. So that's probably good advice, that if you're younger, it's just hit the ground running, be prepared to not take any money for the first few months. If you're going in sales, I guess, not sure how the pay structure set up in different agencies. I'm sure they're all different, but...
and another one would be, I see it now after so many years in the industry. I find a lot of younger agents burn a lot of bridges, left, right and centre, and it's so important to have the right network and have the right people. I wouldn't say network is everything, but the right network can really help you a lot when you're getting started, when you're growing, then when you want to do other things later on. It's, great networking, give clients a great service. That's ultimately what the referrals and the word of mouth
and then
comes
in
from.
turn that'll hopefully allow that person to have some longevity in their career and build a really good reputation.
Exactly.
You mentioned networking actually, so you and I have been to a few networking events together and part of the local chamber and stuff like that, but how do you find that? Are you naturally able just to talk to people, or how do you find the networking scene? Because sometimes it can be pretty full on, even for me. I don't mind talking to people.
Especially 500 people.
And there's 500 people, and so there's a lot of egos, and there's a lot of there's a lot to contend with. But yeah, how do you find what's your take on networking? Like, do you see a benefit? Do you just do it because you think you have to, or do you actually enjoy it? Yeah,
it's finding the people that you're most likely to click with and actually benefit each other from each other.
Yeah.
So a lot of the events are more. They might have a theme, and you're there to more just sit and listen, where others are actually, mingling with other professionals and finding that right crowd. And I'm not going to lie, for some of them, I've gotten some great, new connections from, and some others, they were nice to go to, but I didn't really get too much out of it.
Yeah.
So it's finding the people who are on the same wavelength as you, and I didn't used to find it as easy as I do these days, being in the crowd of people. You don't know anyone in there. It can be pretty intimidating, but
absolutely.
I think I've gotten a lot better lately, just, walking up to someone, introducing myself. What do you do? What do I do? How can we benefit each other? How can we help our businesses grow? So
I guess when you go to those networking events, being genuine is probably the top thing. You don't want to, go and just take. You just want to know how can we mutually benefit one another. And
you don't
just
have to click with everyone.
Yeah, that's right. You're not going to, right? You're not going to make everyone happy.
That's right.
Your new business, how are you marketing that in terms of, it's obviously something, new. You've transitioned from a different aspect of the same industry but a different business. How do you build the brand? How do you let people know you exist? How do you let people know that, hey, I'm here and I'm the best at what I do? How do you market your business? What strategies are you using to try to grow your brand? I'm assuming word of mouth is pretty big at this point, but
I try to look at it from the top and go, what's going to work?
Yep.
And I actually put myself on the other side and thought, okay, if I was a buyer looking to engage a buyer's agent, how would I research them? So I tried to look at, where would they look? How would they look? What are they looking for? So obviously having a strong digital presence is a big thing. I find if people can't find you, you don't exist on the internet as far as we're concerned. So, having the Google page, having the ratings, having the social media, have some videos, some podcasts, some things about you and your business and how you work and operate. Something that gives people enough information they can form a clear picture about you and your business. Have the consistency across all those different platforms, your website, your socials, your LinkedIn. And then staying in touch with your clients. Whether that be phone calls, SMS, newsletters.
I was going to ask you, how do you stay in touch? Are you old school? Do you just use the mobile phone, or do you have like a CRM system that you use?
I do everything.
Okay, so like automation, newsletters and stuff?
It's again giving them options, because not everyone responds in the same way. Some clients are better, just pick up the phone and call them. Some are better on text. Some respond to a newsletter when they see something interesting, when there's a video that pops up, or if you have a link that's interactive that you can click on and takes you, to some other place.
That's right.
But it's just finding that balance of touching enough touch points to, have something relevant for every client, and finding the way that that's best for them.
Would word of mouth and referrals be the biggest source of your business at the moment? So you'd say like the marketing, digital presence is all about just building the brand, and then your in terms of your business and converting, it's probably word of mouth or referral, because it's such a trust business, isn't it?
I actually found just before I left the selling side, all my business was referral.
Wow.
So, for a lot of my clients, they said, why would you leave at the peak? And I said to them, I just felt like I needed to do more of the buying and help my clients that way, because that's what I ultimately enjoy more. And for me, I have as much love for the industry as I did when I started. And so for me to keep that fire going, I had to follow my heart and do what I thought was best for me.
How do you enjoy working for yourself? Like, are you proactive in terms of, time management and waking up to, a schedule, or are you sort of off the cuff? How do you plan your day?
I do have a schedule.
Okay.
My kid said to me, now that you have an office at home, we're going to see you a lot more. And my husband said, I don't think that's going to be the case.
Yeah,
so for me, it's, it's again, different ways I structure my day. It's staying in touch with my current clients, creating new opportunities, networking with new professional connections in the industry. Obviously, a lot of time is spent on research. I'm very hands-on, very much want to be in the field. My job is not something you do out of an office, to tell you the truth. So the more time I spend with people out there at auctions, at open houses, researching, talking to agents, it gives me a lot more to give back to my clients in terms of information and data. So I try to do as much of that as possible because that's what my job is.
Oh, nice. We might wrap it up. Do you have anything else you want to add? We come up to the wrap up, which is good. So, Domi, if people are watching and they want to get in touch with you, how can they find you? What's your website, social media?
So my website is dominationbuyersagents.com. Email address domi@dominationbuyersagents.com, and my phone number is 0488 7766.
And you're on social media?
I am on socials.
Okay, cool.
Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, you can find me there.
Nice, cool. Well, thank you for jumping on. I really appreciate it. It was awesome to sit down and chat and learn a bit more about your business.
Thank you so much.
Guys, I hope you enjoyed sitting down with us and listening to Domi's inspiring journey, going from waitress, hospitality, to running her own successful buyer's agent, and it's growing, and she's juggling a family. So she's superwoman. Please like, share, follow, and if you're thinking of selling, think Renosell.